Welcome back to another episode of Don't Waste the Chaos, where we dive into the sometimes messy, unpredictable world of business and leadership to uncover the opportunities that come from embracing change. I'm your host, Kerri Roberts, and today we're tackling a topic that's geared especially for HR teams and business owners out there, and that, my friends, is outdated HR practices and why it's time to leave them in the dust. In today's fast-paced and ever-evolving business landscape, holding on to inefficient or outdated HR practices can cost much more than time. It can cost you talent, productivity, and your competitive edge. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about the key areas where businesses are still stuck in the past, why it matters to update those practices, and most importantly, how to go about those much-needed changes. From clunky performance reviews to rigid work schedules to recruitment processes that feel more like marathons than sprints, we are going to cover it all. Whether you are leading an HR team, running a business, or just trying to improve the employee experience, this episode is for you. So let's dive into how we can modernize HR practices and start building a more efficient, engaged, and future-ready workforce, no matter the size of your business. Because in the business of chaos, or in the chaos of business, there's always a better way forward. And it starts with your people. So let's get into it. Here are some examples of inefficient or outdated HR practices that some businesses, hopefully not yours, but they may be, no judgment, you may still be using these today. The first is manual paperwork and filing systems. The problem with this is managing employee records, payroll, and employee benefits through paper forms and physical filing cabinets is time-consuming, prone to errors, and very difficult to scale. So the solution to this could be adopting a digital HR software or cloud-based HR management system. In HR, we call them HRIS or HRMS or HR payroll software. That these automate processes, they reduce errors, and they provide real-time access to data. And you'd be shocked at how affordable you can get these. I even have some partners that I work with that I could get you a discount on. And so I would love to discuss whether this may be the right fit for your business. The next place that you may be archaic is in your annual performance reviews. So the problem is that traditional once-a-year performance reviews often lack timely feedback, leaving employees in the dark about their progress for extended periods. They've got a 3-point scale instead of a 5-point scale. They are very, very abstract when it comes to their scoring. Supervisors kind of do whatever they want to do. There's no calibration. So the solution to this would be a couple of different things. You can shift to continuous feedback systems like regular one-on-one meetings and real-time performance tracking to keep employees engaged and improve performance. But if you're not ready to go to that, the next best step would be to improve your current process, make sure it's systematic, make sure that you've got calibration on your leadership team, make sure you're using a 5-point rating scale, make sure that it's incorporating items from the actual job descriptions and your company values. That's a great first step. Okay, next archaic practice, and I know that as business owners and leaders, this one's tough, but those rigid 9-to-5 schedules. The problem is not offering flexibility is going to lead to decreased employee satisfaction and productivity. That's what the data says. It's not just me, especially as remote work and flexible hours have become more common. The solution is implementing flexible work practices and policies like remote work options, flexible hours, and results-oriented work environments to better accommodate employees' needs. Okay, fourth archaic practice, one-size-fits-all employee benefits. The problem is that offering uniform benefits packages don't take into consideration individual preferences that can leave employees dissatisfied or disengaged. A solution would be personalizing your benefits programs with flexible options such as wellness allowances, customized healthcare, or employee-driven perks to better meet diverse needs. And if you didn't listen to my episode that I just had recently with Brian Worley, I highly recommend if you want to dive into the world of employee benefits. His company Patient has an amazing opportunity for businesses of any size. So it's 2 episodes ago. I recommend you go back and give it a listen. Okay, fifth thing that we're doing that's archaic, lengthy and complicated recruitment processes. The problem with this is Lengthy application processes slow the interview cycles, and poor communication with candidates often leads to losing top talent. So the solution would be streamlining your recruitment with technology, using AI-based tools for screening, and maintaining transparent communication throughout the hiring process. Sixth archaic process is over-reliance on resumes and interviews. The problem with this is relying solely on resumes and interviews can lead to hiring biases, and we're also overlooking potential cultural fit or practical skills. So the solution could be incorporating skill assessments, work trials, and behavioral tests to gain a more well-rounded understanding of candidates. Seventh outdated practice we may be doing, lack of data-driven decision-making. The problem with this is HR decisions that are based on gut feelings or outdated practices rather than data can lead to inefficient policies or missed opportunities for improvement. A solution could be utilizing HR analytics to track key metrics. So I'm talking things like employee turnover and retention data, engagement data, training effectiveness data, so you can make informed decisions. Eighth outdated practice is infrequent training and development. The problem with this is providing limited or outdated training can leave employees with stagnant skills, hindering company innovation and growth. Not to mention, employees want learning and development and growth opportunities. So a solution could be shifting to continuous learning models with micro-learning, e-learning, and personalized development plans that align with both employee and company goals. The ninth archaic practice is reactive employee relations management. The problem with this is addressing employee concerns only when issues arise can lead to dissatisfaction, reduced engagement, or higher turnover. Possible solution could be implementing proactive employee engagement strategies like regular employee and satisfaction surveys. We talk about that a lot on the pod, opening communication channels in a systematic and intentional way, and dedicated well-being programs around mental health. The 10th outdated practice you may be doing in your business is failing to measure things around inclusion and diversity. I know a lot of organizations are pushing out their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. I'm not going to share my opinion on that one way or the other, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't still value diversity of thought in your business and inclusive practices where everyone feels like they are truly part of the team. The problem is simply having like a diversity hiring goal without actively measuring the success of these efforts may not foster a truly inclusive environment. So a solution could be implementing metrics for diversity and inclusion, such as inclusion indices and pay equity analysis to track progress and create action plans. So a lot of times we're thinking race, but I'm talking also here about, let's say, pay equity between males and females. So a compensation data study can help you know exactly what you're doing and how to address it. So these inefficient practices can hinder HR effectiveness, employee satisfaction, and overall business performance, making modernization crucial for remaining competitive. So why should a company care about updating their HR practices, and how would they even go about it? They should care because it's going to improve employee engagement and retention. These outdated HR practices can lead to disengaged employees, higher turnover, and low morale. More modern HR practices prioritize employee experience, which can include engagement, boosting productivity, and fostering loyalty. The impact this would have, a focus on this, would be more engaged employees that are more likely to stay with the company long term, and reduced turnover costs and improving overall performance. Who doesn't want that? Another reason why you should care about updating your practices is your ability to attract top talent. Companies with slow, inefficient hiring processes or rigid work environments may lose top talent to competitors who often offer more flexibility or more modern benefits. So if you care about this, you'll have a more streamlined recruitment process, flexible work policies, and attractive benefits that will make your company more appealing to high quality candidates. Okay, the next reason why you should care about updating these is it will boost your efficiency and reduce your cost. I should have started with that one because I know we care about the soft stuff, but this one is the ROI, right? The down and dirty. If we're boosting our efficiency, we're going to get more out of our people and we're going to reduce our costs. Manual paperwork, slow performance review processes, and inefficient training methods waste time and it wastes resources. Automating your HR processes and leveraging driven decision-making can streamline operations and cut costs. HR technology will allow teams to focus on strategic initiatives rather than administrative tasks, saving time and resources. And I might add, then you will look at your HR person and feel like they're more valuable. You very well may be looking at your HR person and your office manager saying they just push paper around or they're just doing all admin tasks. I could outsource that, but I don't. I could use ChatGPT for that, but I don't. I could use technology for that, but I don't. And so go ahead, get the technology and then help that person to focus on more strategic items. The next thing focusing on these updated HR practices is going to enhance your company culture. Rigid, outdated practices can create a work environment that stifles innovation and creativity. Modern HR practices that focus on continuous feedback, employee development, and inclusion foster a culture of growth and collaboration. A strong and positive culture will help attract talent, it will improve employee satisfaction, and it will drive business success. Also, you can ensure compliance and minimize legal risks. And we all know that we need that. That's that thing like gnawing in the back of our mind. Old practices may not comply with modern employment laws or regulations, especially regarding diversity, inclusion, and employee rights. Keeping HR practices updated ensures legal compliance and it minimizes the risk of costly lawsuits. Regular updates to HR practices help mitigate legal risks and ensure that your organization remains compliant with the ever-evolving labor laws. It's also going to help you stay competitive in a changing market. The business landscape, as I mentioned many times over, is evolving rapidly with tech and cultural shifts. Companies that fail to adapt their HR practices very well may find themselves falling behind in talent acquisition and retention and overall business performance. Companies that modernize their HR practices are more agile, they're better equipped to thrive in a competitive, dynamic market, and their folks are happier. So, how should you go about updating your HR practices? Let's say you want to DIY it. There are, of course, great consultant firms that can come alongside you if you're like, dang, I need to do something here. I don't know what to do. I've got a firm named Salt and Light Advisors that can help. There are tons of firms out there. But if you want to DIY this, let me give you some tips. The first thing you need to do is conduct an HR audit. Review current HR practices and identify areas that are outdated, inefficient, or not aligned with company goals. You could probably identify some of these with a quick employee survey. Assess key areas like recruitment, onboarding, performance management, employee benefits, and compliance. That's a great start. So you'd perform your gap analysis by comparing current practices with best-in-class or industry standards. Okay, next thing that you could do is leverage HR tech. And some of you may already be leveraging HR tech, but maybe like 10% of what the technology that you're paying for, you're actually utilizing about 10% of that platform. So this could be for those already using a platform or those that are not. So adopting modern HR software and tools like an applicant tracking system, a lot of those are inside of HRIS systems, performance management software, again, a lot of times included in a package, and cloud-based HR platforms to streamline processes and provide real-time data. So you'd want to research HRIS or HRMS systems or HR payroll systems, and then implement an HR tech that automates administrative tasks, provides analytics, and enhances your employee experience. You will find that this sounds really complicated, but really it's very simple. You're just taking all of your Word docs and your PDFs and your Excel docs and you're putting them all into a system. Now your employees can acknowledge a handbook or handbook changes by typing in the last 4 digits of their social. They can do all of their tax paperwork online. They can enroll in all their employee benefits online. They can update their emergency contacts online. A lot of these tasks that either are not getting updated or they are in their manual, we're going to eliminate all of that. We're going to do a self-service portal where your employees can handle that themselves, and it's going to work like a dream, I promise. So if you need help with that, don't hesitate to reach out. I love helping with all of these topics, but HR tech, I like taking that off people's plates because it seems more complicated than it really is. You'd be shocked by the end of 90 days. We're going to have your whole HR life and payroll life in one system up and running with somebody trained in your organization doing that themselves. Okay. By making these changes, we're going to see so much efficiency, but one of my favorites is data-driven decision making. So we're going to make a shift to data-driven decision making when it comes to your people. So you want to use data and analytics to track key HR metrics. I mentioned what these metrics were before. These can be employee engagement, satisfaction, turnover rates, training effectiveness, diversity ratios. So this allows for a more informed set of decisions and continuous improvement. So I'd recommend you invest in HR analytics tools like an HRIS and train your HR staff or your office manager to use data to drive strategies and actions. I always like to ask, what does the data say? And I don't ask that to be facetious. A lot of people are going to be like, what data? That's my whole point. So what does the data say about this? Gosh, I don't know. Are your employees happy around here? I think so. Well, what does the data say? What data? Your employee satisfaction and engagement data. We've never done that. Great. Let's do a survey. It's only going to take a few weeks from end to end. So we're going to build the survey questions out based on a number of research, or you can even hop on OpenAI and have it help you. Then we're going to send the survey out, free tool like SurveyMonkey or something like that. We're going to get the data back. We're going to have somebody comb over the data. Hopefully we've done numeric-based questions and some open-ended questions. And then we're going to look for themes in the data. Then we're going to communicate back out to the employee population what the data says. And then we're going to make action plans around what we're going to do to address the data, highlighting the strengths, working on the opportunities for improvement. And if you're like, I don't even know how to address this, put together an employee group, an employee focus group or whatever, that sits down with the data and comes up with plans themselves on what they think could and should be done. Then they present that to management, HR, whomever, and then you work together to get that implemented. It's a beautiful thing. Then that's your culture committee moving forward. So I know that I personally feel like that's a simple strategy. I know that takes time, but this stuff is worth it. And I'm trying to give you some fairly simple ideas on ways to jump right in. Okay, next practical thing we can do is create flexible and inclusive work policies. So we need to evaluate and update our policies around remote work, flexible hours, personalized benefits to better meet employee needs and preferences. If you've got an insurance broker, if you listen to the pod very often, you know I've got a background in insurance. I was a chief operating officer for an insurance agency for a number of years, and I know how the sausage is made. I know how the carriers are making money. I know how agencies and advisors or agents are making money. And I've got tons of opinions on that. But in this case, one of the first things that you can do is call up your insurance agent. First of all, they should be calling you at a regular cadence. They're probably not. They're probably just renewing your plan. If that's the case, holler at me. I've got friends in this business who are better than that and who are actually offering service for the money that they make. But if you give them a call, most of them have tools and resources at their disposal, and they're typically relational folks, so they're happy to hear from you. It's just they don't know that you care about it, so then they're just moving through their processes and the days go by. So you reach out to them, you ask them, or you say to them, we are wanting to evaluate our current insurance offerings because we're just not sure. We feel like we're giving maybe a one size fits all. We're not sure what our other options are. We're not sure if there are options around wellness or things outside of just traditional insurance. Can we have a conversation about this? That's a great first start because typically those individuals are skilled and trained and knowledgeable in this area and can point you in the right direction, or they can say your current insurance carrier has some tools and programs you could utilize. Maybe they told you about that during the onboarding meeting when you brought them on as a broker, but they're not sure what you're interested in. So re-engage with them. They've got tools and resources for you. Also, we want to ensure diversity and inclusion initiatives are robust and measurable. So the action that we can take here is implementing flexible work policies and arrangements that provide employees with personalized benefit options to increase satisfaction and retention. Start small. Start with one thing. Start with that call to your insurance agent. We can start there. And then we can also take a look at, do we allow remote or flexible work, and what does that look like, and what positions would be eligible? And how would we manage that process? Maybe just Google flexible work arrangements or call a consultant and they've got some ideas for you. Okay, next thing on the practical side we can do is adopt continuous performance management. Sounds more abstract than it is. So we want to replace our outdated annual performance reviews with either updated annual performance reviews and then adding a biannual performance review, which I highly recommend to all of my clients. And that's a 360 performance review. I love those, where we send those out and we get feedback from that employee's superior, anybody who reports to them, their peers, clients, any other key stakeholders. We take all of that data, we look for themes, and then that is like a mid-year review cycle based off of data. It's so good. Or you can replace your current process with more continuous feedback, goal setting, and development conversations. If you're going to do that, here's what a lot of times happens. Oh yeah, we don't want to do the form of performance review stuff. We want it to be more real time. I love this in theory, but most organizations just aren't going to do this with a systematic, intentional, continuous approach. If you can, 3 cheers for you. I would say start out with those biannual, so the one formal and then the one 360, and then let's move from there. But if you want to put bi-weekly meetings on the schedule with your employees or monthly meetings on the schedule, I would recommend creating an agenda for those, sharing that agenda with your employee to make sure that it serves them and it serves you, and that you don't push those meetings off the calendar. You don't push them for 3 days. You don't push them for a week and then say, let's cancel this one. I'll catch up with you in 2 weeks. If you're going to do this, you have to be consistent. So for most organizations, I know we love the idea of this flexible approach because we're going to give real-time feedback. But if you're not going to be strategic and consistent with that, try something else and build up to it. So let's introduce tools and processes for real-time feedback if we're going to do it, or coaching, and ensure our managers are trained to provide this continuous constructive feedback. Or at a minimum, let's implement some calibration meetings the next time you're doing your formal performance review process. So the employee scores themselves. Hopefully you're having them do a self-evaluation. Then the managers score the employees, but they aren't sharing that data with the employees yet. Then we schedule a meeting as a management team to get together and show our cards. Okay, here's people who scored high. Here's people who scored low. Here's people who scored in the middle of the road. And then we talk openly to each other as managers. And as a manager, I'm able to say like, ooh, you scored Susan a 4 out of 5. Do you know how difficult she is to work with people on my team? I would have scored her a 2 in this area, or I would have scored her a 3. And we have very constructive, helpful, open dialogue about employees. And we share our feedback with one another, and we get to a more systematic, strategic approach when it comes to scoring. Okay, I could talk about performance reviews all freaking day long. Okay, another thing that we can do on a practical side is focus on employee development. Moving from infrequent or generic training sessions to continuous learning and development programs that are a little bit more formalized. Personalizing development opportunities that align with individual career goals and company objectives. Couple of tips here that we can do. We can implement personalized development plans. So at the end of the performance review, we can give 3 goals that we want them to work on for the next year and the tasks associated with those. And then we have them identify a few things. Those can be personal or professional. And then we put together an individual development plan. In HR land, we call that an IDP, that aligns with their individual career goals and company objectives. So exciting. So if we implement these IDPs or these individual personalized development plans, we can encourage cross-training. We can promote learning through e-learning platforms, mentoring programs, or coaching. It's awesome. Your employees want it and need it. And if they don't, then you don't have a culture of learning, or you do, and they don't belong there. Okay, next thing we can do is involve leadership with employees. Updating our HR practices isn't just an HR responsibility. Involve leadership to champion changes and get input from employees to ensure updates reflect the company's culture and goals. So you can create a task force of leadership, or I mentioned a culture committee earlier as well. You can have a task force that includes HR staff with leaders and a few employee representatives to gather together to get feedback and drive adoption of new practices. This could be part of your change management strategy, and it will be more effective than what you're currently doing. Next, we need to regularly review and evolve our practices. So our HR practices should be reviewed and updated regularly to stay relevant. Create a process for ongoing review and adjustment based on employee feedback, changing laws, and market trends. So you could set an annual or semi-annual review cycle for HR policies and programs to ensure they continue to meet business and employee needs. By updating HR practices, companies can improve employee engagement, stay competitive, and build a more agile and innovative workforce. I gave you a lot of ideas. Implement one. Start with one. Pull down a transcript from this episode. Take a look at what I recommended. Start with one, but prioritize the next four after that. And once the one is implemented, consider implementing the second. Or you can always outsource to a consultant or someone who's knowledgeable in these areas because it's above and beyond. I get it, but it's something that we have to do if we want sustainable workplaces that continue on into the future. I know when it comes to HR or any of our practices, being intentional can feel like chaos. It can feel like just one more thing on our list. But folks, this work is worth it. Don't waste the chaos. Embrace it. Till next time.